Can you hear me? My name is Al Chaw. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff. I'll be our moderator tonight. Has everyone that wants to ask a question get to submit a question? Okay, so when you hear your name, I'll call your name first and last, the city where you're from, and the topic of conversation. When you hear that, please step forward and ask your question of the congressman. We will start with Mr. Doug King from Roswell. You have a question on DOGE and Elon Musk for the congressman. Doug, the floor is yours.
Oh, even better. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here this evening and the opportunity to speak and ask questions. My question really just comes down to, do you believe that Mr. Musk is doing the appropriate work and the appropriate method apparently asked by the president? And if so, why?
So this is the most commonly asked question. We kind of reviewed all the questions. This is the number one question, so we want to address it right up front because some of you really wanted to have this addressed. Let me explain how the history of the review process in government works just historically. Whether you go all the way back to Carter, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, Bush, they all had review processes. Sometimes it was called the Grace Commission. Sometimes it was called digital services. They always had access in order to review where the money goes in government. President Trump renamed it the DOGE, but they have the same information access as the digital services. Wait. I'm going to explain something. So for about 1 hour, one person had more access than they were supposed to. He didn't use it. He didn't even know he had it. And then they closed the loop. Okay, are you guys familiar with digital services? And I'm being serious. Okay, digital services, which tracks money and where it goes, right? Now, we know for a fact that, first of all, for those people who say, well, he's not elected, you're right, he's not elected. No bureaucrat is elected. Not one person in the government bureaucracy is elected, nor is any appointee. They're not elected. So we can set that aside. They're government employees. I would like to be able to finish, if you don't mind, then you can make your comments. They're government employees that have access to information in order to track where the money's going. There's a lot of people upset about this because they think, oh, these people have access to my personal information. Guess what? The IRS has tons of information on your personal information. This is going to go really slowly if you don't let me finish. You got to let me finish. You got to let me finish. When you have any classified information, whether it be in the military or anything like, there's a need-to-know basis for each category of information you have access to, based on what bureaucratic agency you belong to, what you're assigned to by design of the government. Now, when you have access to information, and I've researched this, and you can say you have contrary information, and we can continue to look at this, and I continue to give you documentation that shows exactly what they have access to. I'm happy to do that with my staff, happy to issue that publicly. I'm not trying to hide anything. No problem. I'll do it. I'll do it. The access they have of the information, and I've researched this as well, and basically I get to go in places where I have to go into a SCIF in order to get access to certain information, right? That's secret information. And even if I have access to information, that doesn't give information outside that purview. And so it's very specific to my qualifications for the job I'm trying to do. Same thing goes for digital services. Same thing is supposed to go for DOGE. Now, you can say that's not the case, but I will show you the information that we're given guidance on, and that's why you have lawyers, and that's why you have Supreme Court, and that's why you have oversight and balance of government. When it comes to assignments, they are government contracted. They have a government assignment. They are hired in the government, even if they're not paid. They're government employees by contract. They are. That's just the simple truth. And I can show you the paperwork on that, too. We'll post all that. That's fine. You can disagree with me all you want, but I'm just telling you the way it is. And I get that you don't agree with me and you think I'm not telling the truth. But that's unless they're lying to me, and you can say they are. So who? Okay. So apparently you know more than I do, so that's fine. I don't know what you're here to hear me for. So the point being, that my understanding of DOGE is very similar to digital services, and they are tracking a lot of money that has gone to a lot of places it shouldn't have gone. When it comes to waste, fraud, and abuse, and you can track that money where it's gone, the American people have agreed on certain things that we don't want the money to go to. Now, some of it's through grant processes, some of it through USAID. Some things are going to be more controversial than others. Some things are going to seem partisan. But by and large, the president has great purview over where a lot of this money goes. Now, some of this is going to be litigated. I'll pause whenever you want, and you can go and yell all you want, but I can't understand 10 people, let alone 100 people at once. You realize that a lot of this stuff will be litigated in court, right? Some of it. So if you don't think it's going to be litigated in court, and you don't think I'm going to stand up for you, what So if we're going to have a town hall, and I'm going to come and stand in front of you and take your questions and try to answer them as honestly as I can, then let's do that, okay? But if you're going to just yell at me, that's not going to be an effective town hall. I get it. And you know what? And I get angry sometimes too, and I get angry with my peers, and I get angry with some people that say bad things to me too. But we want to be effective. We want to be effective and controlled, because if everybody's yelling, it's not going to be an effective town hall. Okay, I'm not really sure where we're going wrong on this, but like I said, we're going to keep this in order, and we're going to go to the next question.
Canton, you have a question on DOGE, specifically as it relates to foreign affairs?
Yes, I want to say that from a conservative perspective, the approach of DOGE is completely 180 degrees. They've been indiscriminate, and they've taken a chainsaw to these things. We've seen that with workers from the nuclear workers, the NNSA, our nuclear stockpile, and CDC workers working on the bird flu being fired by DOGE and then having to be rehired when someone realizes, oh gosh, we need those people. Why is a supposedly conservative party taking such a radical and extremist and sloppy approach to this?
So I've been down to the CDC several times. Actually, Dr. Howery, one of my former attendings, works there, and I'm in close contact with the CDC. They have about, what, 13,000 employees? 13,000 employees at the CDC. In the last couple of years, those probationary people, which is about 10% of their employee base, which is about 1,300 people, which you're referring to, a lot of the work they do is duplicitous with AI. Once again, one of the problems we have, I happen to be a doctor. I know a few things, okay? Just give me a break. Here's what we know. If you have 13,000 employees, and I'm sure you're aware of the size of government, the second biggest leading job creators in the last 4 years has been government, next to healthcare. Healthcare first, government second. If we continue to grow the size of government and we can't afford it, it's going to have shortfalls in your Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and other things that we can't afford, guys. We have to make some decisions. And one of the things with the CDC, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, this is my opinion, you may disagree with it, but in my opinion, when you make those 10% cuts to new hires, a lot of it is duplicitous jobs. And I've talked to Dr. Howery, and I've talked to the CDC director, and I'm in close contact with them, and I know how they do their research. And I know how computers work in ferreting out those information, the treatments, the recommendations, what they should and they shouldn't be done. And I believe that they could do more with less, just like the Marine Corps and everybody else does, when you have to do more with less in order to survive. Nobody can hear him when you're yelling. Please let him continue.
Trying to do more with less.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. What's not reasonable is taking this chainsaw approach, which they obviously admit when they fired these people and then decided, oh, we fired the wrong people. We got to bring them back in. Why is this being jammed down the pipe so rushed and sloppily?
So,
use a scalpel.
My understanding is when you say you have this many employees that you have to cut, that organization decides who they're going to cut. Now they may they're being forced to cut, but not necessarily who to cut. Now we can debate all day whether they should be cut or not. But the fact of the matter is there's going to be a downsizing government, just like we've had in the past, downsizing the military. I've been in the military where the president came in, a Democratic president came in and said the military will be slashed. And it gets dramatically and people get kicked out of the Marine Corps and they don't want to go. And I've seen it. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying it is a fact of budgets based on who's in control of the government, where that money goes. Nobody can hear him and nobody can hear you, so please be respectful.
My point, though, is the conservative approach is to take this in a slow and methodical way so that you make sure you do it right. And that's not happening.
So when it comes to spending, and this is where we will agree, or hopefully, maybe we don't agree, but when we talk about presidential powers, now I've always been a big person that believes that the president should never do anything that affects monetary, basically taxation or anything that has an impact, economic impact over 100 million. There's actually a REINS Act that it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, executive orders are limited because I think that's fair. I think it should be in balance, right? And you can say, oh, I don't like it when Trump does this and I don't like it when Biden does this. I personally think we have to go more slow. But I'm not the president, and this is going to be litigated, and it's going to play itself out in public opinion. But this is also a reaction to growing the government rapidly, just like it's shrinking rapidly. Maybe not to the same extreme, but this is a reaction to something that's happened by expanding the government rapidly.